first things first, it has been reported by multiple outlets in the wrestling community that it is official that Mercedes Moné's contract makes her the highest paid woman in the history of professional wrestling. Our article on Forbes said that it fell short a little bit of $5 million. But I wanted to
Jesus
know
Christ.
how you felt about Mercedes Moné being the highest paid woman in the history of pro wrestling.
Big OW for black women. Okay. I feel like black women in this industry has came such a long way
Hmm.
between the oppression that was dealt with behind the scenes, on screen, getting the short end of the stick just with, I guess, booking. I really honestly feel like when it came down to Mercedes, although she didn't initiate the women's revolution, we gotta give that to AJ, right? She
Hmm.
was a major part of it. She definitely picked up where AJ left off with the Divas era, and we had the four horsewomen. I feel like out of all of them, the one that I really like, I think everyone could agree they locked their eyes in on what really was the most noticeable shift in women's wrestling came through Mercedes. And this is something that she literally has lived, breathed, and died for all her life to do. And the woman just gets better and better and better. Every time I see her, every year I see her, she really cares for making a difference in this sport, in any industry, in any promotion that she's in. She's revolutionized women's wrestling, and I just feel like if any person that, again, unfortunately wasn't Lita or Trish that could have got it, or AJ that could have got it, I definitely feel like if I had to give it to anybody, Sasha Banks or Mercedes Moné,
Yeah.
it has to be.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I know that when she went over to WWE, there's a certain number that she wanted. They didn't honor it. I'm not sure if it's the exact number she wanted out of Tony Khan or not, but all I know is that the number itself, or her having this prestigious amount, is definitely warranted. I think she definitely earned it. I can't think of a better woman that could have had got this amazing accolade. And honestly, I'm proud of her. I'm very proud of her. I'm proud of her as a wrestling fan. I'm proud of her as a black woman. I love Mercedes Moné. What do you think about this?
To kind of piggyback off of what you're saying, big W for black women, big W for women's wrestling fans, big W for women's wrestling.
Yeah.
It's the people who are at the forefront of the industry that have the power to set the trend. And I believe the most exciting thing for me isn't necessary that the biggest thing for me, the biggest takeaway for me is that if Mercedes Moné can command these numbers, if someone can achieve popularity, then that number is not too far out of reach for the next people in line. I feel like even with WWE, and they've progressed significantly, it's not a secret. The women in WWE don't get paid as much as the men. And sometimes they are selling merch just as rapidly as the men. And they're doing numbers, and they have that mainstream crossover appeal that the men do. But I feel like a Mercedes Moné commanding these numbers isn't just good for her, but it's good for women. It lets people know that this is possible. It lets people know that this can be the standard. And I believe that not just black women, but all women should be able to be properly compensated, especially when they are great at what they do and they're at the top of their game. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, short of 5 million is big money. I'm not gonna lie, that's a bag. That's a bag. And I believe that in her contract and in part of her negotiations, it said that Mercedes would have some direct contact with Warner Brothers Discovery, which, if you know of her Hollywood aspirations, you know that that's big. Warner Brothers Discovery is a huge media conglomerate. They've produced multiple DC movies. Obviously, they also are in charge of a lot of the distribution that happens with Abbott Elementary and All American and things like that. And they are a historic brand when it comes to arts and entertainment. And so for Mercedes Moné to not only have access to that bag, but to that direct contact at Warner Brothers to allow her to flourish and do other ventures, I think it's super exciting. And it changes the game. It has the potential to set the standard for what women wrestlers can expect out of a contract. But we'll see what happens next. But let us know about how you feel about Mercedes Moné allegedly being the highest paid woman in the history of professional wrestling. We are going to be moving on.